So consequently, you see, our people, we are like Pavlovian dogs, and we have to face it, where we let another people associate through music and through this and through that various symbols, such that all they have to do is hold them up and manipulate us, and that which they have created inside of us responds to these symbols, and we cannot escape their influence. So consequently, we cannot exercise voluntary control over our emotions and over our behavior. And there are so many ways you can hypnotize people. One of the ways, of course, you can hypnotize them is through authority. Right? Yeah, you read hypnotism books and they tell you just, some people you can hypnotize just by literally commanding them. If they respect your authority enough, they'll just go into a hypnotic trance. I tell the people in my class all the time. I tell you something you don't want to half believe it. White man came in here and told you take it all in. The very people who lie to you most are the people you're the quickest to believe. Hypnotism. In fact, you won't believe it until what? Until they say it. Until you see some proof or some white authority. Therefore, white skin itself becomes a symbol of authority in and of itself. An individual responds to it unconsciously and consciously. And therefore, anything connected with them gains the authority as well. So one of your colleagues go to a white college. You ready to believe it? You went to a black college? Well, I think about what you have to say. You got a degree from Harvard? Oh, all right, come in here and tell us anything you want to tell us. You know? And therefore, the things that are connected, we respond to them. This is what we call in psychology generalization, right? You learn one thing, and if it's similar or related to that which you learned, mistake of getting angry and resentful in dealing with the European. Because it is through anger and resentment that the personality is implanted into you as a people. It is through losing control over your mind and responding senselessly that the devil is placed into you as a person yourself. It is through anger and resentment that you become like the person that you are angry with and resent. Somebody called you a fool. Who? I'm not a fool. You demonstrated right away. I made you into one right off.
Good evening. Welcome to another edition of African Americans Ain't Africans. The thing show that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the so-called African American didn't find his way to America in the trunk of a ship. I'm your host, the Indigenous one. I'm going to talk about something that I think everybody could keep in their pocket and just rub on it whenever they need to, because it's real simple. And I also want to share what I call African Americans, because everybody's always mad. Why you talk about African Americans like that? Why? And when you call yourself something that you're not, you're letting somebody come in and take over your mind and body. We're going to show you how the African American, the ones in America, the ex-blacks, the ex-Negro, what they have done since they've been on the block. And this brother showed me tonight that's exactly how it is. I was wrong in reading it, so I didn't understand. And when he explained it, and you see right now, he just put it all together. And check out what we've been doing all these years. That's what I'm saying. We don't have time to fuck around. Seriously, we don't. If you look at what's happening in all these cities, I always mention it with Jackson, Mississippi. You think That's the only city whose pipes are rusted? You're kidding. So check out what this brother said, and check out what we do in the aftermath. Those who are born those who are born in American are Americans of African descent. So I was thinking he was talking about people like my grandfather, my grandmother, you know, why I was in that type of setting thinking like that, I don't know. And I said, please know what you are talking about before you speak. And and this is the conflict resolution. That's why I say it's easy as 1, 2, 3. He just put it in the words that made it crystal. Know what you are talking about before you type. Unless you were born in Africa and came to America, you are not African American. I don't understand how we don't get that. I don't understand how we don't get that. You call yourself something that was set up for somebody else to come over. Remember, this term African American hit you in 1986, 87. Africans had been here. In Kwame Nkrumah, the president of Ghana or one of those countries over there, he went to school at a HBCU. Schools that your ancestors built.
The Pan-African Congress of 1945, now you have the one thing you did not have in the rest of them. You have Caribbean scholars, African-American scholars, not a whole lot, and Africans themselves are now participating. We're not talking about Africa out of the presence of Africa. Now you're talking about Africans with the Africans on the scene. One African being the co-convener of the conference, Kwame Nkrumah. Out of that fifth Pan-African Congress came the mentality, the basic planning to rule and to take over a nation. The others were saying, give us the education. At the fifth Pan-African Congress, they said, we got the education, we got the manpower, we want to rule now.
The people of Ghana resisted British rule from the very beginning. In March of 1957, they become the first Africans to win their freedom. Kwame Nkrumah was ready to rule.
When I knew Nkrumah in the Harlem History Club days, my impression of him was not as the future head of state, but as an African who's going to go back and make a major contribution to his nation, and he was a committed African. I went to Africa in 1958 because I've been promising myself I was going to get to Africa next year. That promise of myself went on for about 5 years before I actually got there. When I got there, all I had was a return ticket. I told an African who had read one of my stories in an African magazine and wrote and got my address. I said I was coming to Ghana, get me a place in a hotel for a few days, and he didn't even go to a hotel, he didn't even try. He took me to the slums of Accra, and I lived right there with him. Finally, a check that was due me from America did not arrive. When it did arrive, it bounced. So there I was, and one day, Nkrumah had gone someplace. He was coming home from a visit of state. A whole lot of people along the highway hailing his return, and so I was along with the rest of them. I was just like another African melted into the crowd. And he spotted me, and they stopped the Rolls Royce, and the motorcycle drivers pulled their guns, thought that someone was about to hurt the president, you know. his motorcade stopped, and he came out, and he said, what the hell are you doing in my country? And I just laughed. You say, you're a long way from Harlem. He looked right and said, where do you live? I said, in Jamestown. Jamestown is the slums of Accra. Still is. He shook his head and said, you sure must love Africa. Finally, he headed back to his car, and he turned back to me. He said, you know what I'm going to do for you? I told him I didn't have any job, and my check had bounced. I didn't even know how I was going to get home. I'm going to put your Harlem behind to work.
Schools that your ancestors built. Schools that your ancestors made the bricks for. They came over here to check you out because they're still in your universities now. They've taken them over for you. And if you look at how these educated, seriously, we better start using this language right. What they call educated, and this is where we are, and y'all voting for that shit. Come on, cuz. Come on, man. Come on. And that's the shit you showing your kids how to do. You have a flood of immigrants coming in. I don't really think we're paying too much attention to it because nothing's being said about it. Yeah, me and little small groups. This should be worldwide knowledge. And the thing is, we usher them in. Haven't you been calling yourself? You haven't been calling yourself Accomack. You haven't been calling yourself Chitamacha. You ain't been calling yourself Tuscaloosa, Tuscaroras. You ain't been calling yourself that. You ain't been calling yourself what somebody told you to call yourself. Because when they tell you to be something for boss, you'll break your back. That's what African American was put on you for. So other people can come replace you. And it wouldn't have worked if you didn't go with it. See, long as we participate in it, long as we just go with whatever is told to us, and I mean whatever. Check out all these niggas who got these shots. Check them out. So the Africans that are coming over here, they're the African Americans, because he just explained it to you. Unless you were born in Africa. So when you ask one of us that, what's the look we get first? I mean, you have scholars at some of these universities teaching this stuff, teaching your children that they are not the children of America. They're the children of Africa. Wasn't that the mind game played on you in the 60s, 70s, and 80s? To make you think you were something else. Now you're in and check out the time frame that everything is falling into place. You have one of your biggest populations fading out. Those people were the last people of really big families. You used to have women that would have 20 kids. Why? Because she didn't look at it as 20 kids. She looked at it as 40 hands. They needed people. Like in this culture, they throw away people. They dog people out. They make people think that they're nothing. Your ancestors didn't roll like that. Well, you roll like it now. They were having all these babies because they were building whatever on their land. They needed hands, and you were called upon. Just like you're being called upon now. And you better answer the call. Pay attention to what's going on around you. Go back to you have ancestors here. You have people, you have kin. When your body's gone, it still doesn't mean your essence isn't around. You've seen it. Your essence is still around. Your energy is still here. It doesn't leave with you. Connect with the people close to you, family. Go to some of those places where your people are from, where a lot of you guys are buried. And you guys think I'm playing. Bones are antennas, especially when they stacked in the mound type way. You ever notice that? In the burial mounds, all the mounds, those antennas. You know, huh? So I'm saying these are things our children are going to have to know. We be thinking it's all hocus pocus, but you believe a man could live in a whale's stomach for 3 days and survive.
Their scholarship, Western scholarship, you either got to believe in the evolution theory of Charles Darwin, that we all came from apes, or you got to believe in the creation theory of the Bible and most Western religions. You see what I'm saying? And never the two shall merge themselves together. Number one, because they're trying to hide the origin of this whole ape thing. They'll put it behind that and stuff, because the simple fact, they want everybody to believe we came from one single source, the apes. And so therefore, and other than to say we came from the ancient black man, this is the key on this doggone Charles Darwin thing, which was a part of secret societies, which was a part of a secret society that came up with this foolishness and stuff. It was a consortium of the secret societies, just that Charles Darwin is the author of the book. You see what I'm saying? And what's the natural selection or whatever the name of the book is and all. So he gets credited for this particular Darwin theory, but it's the secret society's plan to somehow cover up the fact that the black man at that time was the ancient origin of everything. Now this stuff, the Darwin stuff, comes out around the same time that the white man in England was interested in the origin of races and pulled that old fake ass shit called the Piltdown man, where they went and got some couple of bones and put them all together, buried them, and came and found them and said that the origin of man was in England. And the shit stood for years until somebody came and found out the shit was a fake. The Piltdown man came on the heels of them finding some bones in South Africa. They later on found the Lucy bones in East Africa, but they found some bones in South Africa that was very old. So this whole thing that is going down with Charles Darwin and all of this stuff is going on at the same time, where they're trying to either authenticate the oldest man being in England, which is some old fossil hybrid species, or some old ape species, or the oldest, or they saying that man came from ape. So some people say, well, Bobby, they got these hominid species. They have all these species of these different apes and stuff. Archaeology proves it. Yes, it proves it. It proves that there was different species of ape, but it don't prove that our black ass came from it. You see what I'm saying? See the mind here that thing is? Yes, we have different species of ape, just like we got a damn saber-toothed tiger based on a modern tiger. We got different species of birds. But it don't prove that man came from the different species of ape. They can't bit more prove that this shit evolved into the black man. Now who am I going to go by? Am I going to go by a bunch of crackers that's talking about a bunch of different species of apes, which we have an origin? Yeah, we will give them. The white man does have an origin from ultimate miscegenation coming from apes. But we don't.
And there are so many ways you can hypnotize people. One of the ways, of course, you can hypnotize them is through authority. Right? Yeah, you read hypnotism books and they tell you just, some people you can hypnotize just by literally commanding them. If they respect your authority enough, they'll just go into a hypnotic trance. That's what I tell my people in my class all the time. I tell you something you half don't want to half believe it. White man came in here and told you, you take it all in. The very people who lied to you most are the people you're the quickest to believe. Hypnotism. In fact, you won't believe it until what? Until they say it. Until you see some proof or some white authority. Therefore, white skin itself becomes a symbol of authority in and of itself. An individual responds to it unconsciously and consciously. And therefore, anything connected with them gains the authority as well. So one of your colleagues go to a white college. You ready to believe it. You went to a black college? Well, I think about what you have to say. You got a degree from Harvard? Oh, all right, come in here and tell us anything you want to tell us. You know? And therefore, the things that are connected, we respond to them. This is what we call in psychology generalization.
It has been proven that the DNA in the Americas matches no other anywhere on Earth. Now the story goes that all life started in Africa, except here on the American continent. It means that there were two different types of people. You with me so far? Okay. Now sit down and hold on, because here's where it gets scary. I hope you can handle this. Scientists are actually now going in the opposite direction. They are starting to wonder if possibly, life started here in the Americas. Wow. That should blow your mind about as much as a fucking white Jesus.
You're an amazing vehicle. Stop letting others drive it. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time. Peace.